Hello and welcome to English Classes TV Shows Explained.
Hi.
So today we're looking at Breaking Bad and we're going to be looking at the episode 1, series 1, and we're going to be looking at the pilot, and today is going to be plot, so what happened in this episode. So this episode is a bit of an episode for setting everything up, for explaining the premise of the show, as a pilot tends to do. Okay, so the first thing we see, it's an interesting episode because we start at the end, So the first thing we see is Walter White outside his RV. He's talking to the camera, and what's happening there?
Then we have this 3-month long flashback.
Yeah, so we see Walter White in his RV with a gun, and we see clearly that something's gone very bad.
Yeah, he's recording a message saying, my name is Walter White, I love you Skylar, Skylar's his wife, I love you Walter Jr., blah blah blah. And he leaves the camera recorder with his wallet, his documentation, and he's there in his underpants.
Yeah, looking like he's in serious problems.
Yeah.
So now we head three weeks earlier, and it's Walter's 50th birthday. Okay, so what's happening there? And over breakfast.
Yeah, so we can see the way they celebrate birthday usually. Like, he's having his scrambled egg with bacon, and everything is just like every normal day, but it's his birthday, right?
Yeah. All these early scenes before he goes bad, to explain how boring his life is. So his life is very mundane, very ordinary, very boring.
Very normal.
Very normal.
Yeah.
But I think not even normal, but worse than normal. He has quite a bad life. His life is very grey.
Probably, yes.
Yeah, so we see the breakfast is boring. He doesn't have real bacon. The bacon that he eats is fake bacon.
It's diet bacon.
Diet bacon.
Like
it's
this.
fake bacon. It's got no fat in it, and it's disgusting.
Yeah, and it's the scene when we meet his family, his wife and his son.
Yeah, and his son is disabled.
Yeah.
And he.
His name is Walter Jr.
Yeah.
Okay, so in the next scene, can we skip to the next scene?
Yeah, skip ahead, yes.
Walter White is a chemistry teacher, so we can see him teaching. And you can see that he's amazed about chemistry. And
he's amazed by chemistry.
Amazed by chemistry.
Yeah.
It's his passion, but we can see that the students, they're definitely not amazed. They're quite bored.
Yeah, he's trying to make the classes more exciting, but all his students are very bored. They're not very interested. They're more interested in talking to each other.
Yeah, they're not paying attention at all.
Yeah, so this is shows another aspect of his life. So we see his home life is a bit boring, and we see
his professional life. Like, he's trying to be a good teacher, but the students are quite terrible.
Yeah, everyone is bored, and he's just talking to an empty room essentially. So that's we see his home life, then we see his work life, and then we see his second job. So what's he doing in his second job?
Yeah, he works in a car wash. He has a very strange boss, which have very strange eyebrows.
Yes.
So he washes cars and
he doesn't wash cars. He's supposed to be working on the till.
Yes.
At the cash register, as the Americans say.
He's
collecting the money, but it's seen that obviously that the guy is always asking him to wash the cars, and that's not part of his job. And this also shows, I think, that Walter is a bit of a doormat, in that he's not a strong personality. He doesn't say no, he doesn't defend himself. So his boss tells him to do something and he does it, even though he doesn't want to do it and it's not his job.
It's his boss, it's not easy.
Yeah, but if your boss tells you to do something and it's not part of your job, sometimes you say no.
Yeah.
But he is clearly, and he's a nice guy, but a bit of a doormat, a bit soft, yeah? So he just does what he's told. Yeah.
And what is important in this scene maybe it's later, the student thing.
The students take a picture of him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because on his class, in his class, he told one student to shut up, basically, and now the same student with his girlfriend, they are in the car wash.
Yeah.
And Walter White is waxing their car and they laugh at him. And it's quite humiliating.
Yeah, he feels humiliated. He feels like his life isn't really worth living. He finds it very difficult. He has a difficult life. He has to work 2 jobs. He works hard, but there are people who work less hard than him, who have more things as well. Okay, so we have his surprise birthday party. He comes back from his job at the car wash, and we see his surprise birthday party. So what's happening at the surprise birthday party?
Well, his face is quite funny because you can see the surprise and that he's not very happy about it. And at the party we have some friends, but also family, like Skylar's sister Mary with her husband Hank.
Yeah.
And Hank is a DEA policeman, so he works in narcotics, right?
Yeah.
And at some point at the party, he tells Walter White to turn TV on.
Turn the TV on.
Turn the TV on, and we can see the news. And in the news there is a
piece of news.
piece of news.
This is news is like information. It's not countable. It's uncountable. So you have some news or a piece of news.
Yeah,
this is a common mistake in Spain. They make this mistake a lot. They think news is plural, but no, news is uncountable. Yeah.
Yes, so we can see this piece of news.
Yes, good.
About...
Or news report, you could say as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
About police operation, and they discovered a big meth laboratory.
Meth lab, yeah.
Lab. So, and Walter White is curious about how much money, or
yes.
how much money there could be in the lab, because he's having difficult economic situation, and he's thinking
he's having difficulties. He's having money difficulties, so he's in a difficult economic situation. Yeah.
Yes. So he realized that maybe it's an easy way to make money, and we can see that he's interested in.
Yeah, I don't think at that point he's planning to do it, but he sees maybe the potential.
Yeah.
Okay, so the next scene is him in bed with his wife. Again, this is another scene to show. So how would you describe their sex life?
Like quite boring or inexistent.
Non-existent.
Non-existent.
Well, it exists, but
she's pregnant.
It's very boring, and she's giving him a hand job. She is, masturbating him, but she is also watching. She's also on the internet. She's not really paying.
She's bidding something on the internet.
She's selling something.
Yeah, she's selling something on auction. You say?
Yeah, on an auction on eBay, perhaps.
And she gets very excited, but because of the money that she reached, so we can see face of Walter White, and
it shows again
sad.
that his life is a bit boring and not very exciting in any way. Yeah. Okay, so the next scene we have, he collapses. He's at work, he collapses, and Walter has to go to the hospital. So what happens at the hospital?
So we can see that they're making different exams to him.
They're examining him.
They're examining him.
Examinating, yeah.
And we can see Walter talking to the doctor, and he's not paying really attention. He's staring to a mustard stain. Staring at mustard stain at somewhere at doctor's. What do you call it?
On his lab coat.
Lab coat. Yes. And he's telling him actually that he has a lung cancer and it cannot be operated, so he gives him a year or 2 of life.
He gives him a year or 2, yeah. So he says at best 2 years. And Walter takes it he's quite sanguine, he's quite calm about it, isn't he?
He's like, okay, lung cancer you said?
Yeah.
We cannot operate?
He's more interested in the mustard stain than in the actual cancer diagnosis. Okay, so we find out he doesn't tell his wife, so he's decided to keep it secret. And then we start to see the change in Walter White. So what happens at his work with his boss?
He goes to the car wash to his work, right? And his boss another time tells him to wash cars. That it's something that he's not supposed to do because he should work at till, right? And he's fed up and he says no, and he basically tells his boss that he will leave his job.
Yeah, he tells him to get lost, to screw you, and it's that start of the change. So then Walt decides that he's going to go on a raid with his brother-in-law. So they're going to raid a meth lab. Yeah, so he's riding along with his brother-in-law. I think at this point he has the idea of starting up his own meth lab. So he wants to see how it's done, and he wants to see if he can do it as well, maybe. Yeah, so who do we meet on the meth lab, on this raid?
So it's the scene when we meet the other hero of the TV show, that's Jesse Pinkman. He's jumping out of the window on the first floor, escaping from police, and Walter can recognize him, and he can recognize him too.
Yeah, they were...
No, Jesse cannot see him.
No, Jesse does see him, because Jesse tells him to be quiet. Jesse says, shh.
Yeah, but he doesn't realize that he's with DEA, does he?
I don't know what Jesse thinks. I think Jesse does realize it. I think Jesse recognizes Walt, but just tells him to be quiet, and then he runs off. But he's not in his own house. He avoids the raid because he was next door. Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay. So so we see in the next scene we see Jesse and Walt meeting up, and what happens there? What happens in that scene? When Jesse and Walt meet up late at night. So they Walt proposes a partnership, doesn't he? He says I will make the meth for you. I'll make the methamphetamine for you, and you sell it. Yeah. Yeah,
and Jesse is skeptical at the beginning. He's saying things like, "You're a teacher, not a drug dealer." Blah blah blah.
Yeah. So, and how do they decide to make this meth cook? The expression they use is to cook meth. So where do they cook? Where do they decide they're going to cook?
They decide that it's not possible to do it at home.
Yeah.
Walter at the beginning thinks that they can rent a garage or something.
Yeah, storage space, yeah.
Yes, but then they decide that the RV would be the good option. And Walter gives to Jesse... Gives? Oh.
Yeah, gives, yeah.
to Jesse all his savings and tell him to buy RV, right?
To buy an RV.
An RV.
Yeah, okay. So again, we're going to see in the next scene Walter White. Walt, he's in a clothes shop with his disabled son, and there are people making fun of his disabled son.
And his wife.
Yeah. So what does he do? Well, this represents his change also.
Well, at the beginning is his wife that she's very mad and she wants to tell them something.
Tell them off, yeah.
Tell them off, yes. And he's saying like, don't. He don't want her to do it. Doesn't want her to do it. So we can see that he leaves and then he comes back. And he punched him basically in his face.
No, he kicks him in the leg, doesn't
he?
Oh,
right. Yeah, he kicks him in the leg, and then he steps on his leg.
Yeah.
And like saying, "Now you can walk," because the son has problem with walking.
So, why does Walt do this, and how does he manage to win the fight? Why is he in this situation? Do you think? Because I think this represents the fact that he's becoming a bad person, or he's standing up for himself. Even he's becoming less of a doormat. He's less soft. He's becoming harder, and also he has nothing to lose. He feels now with the cancer diagnosis. He thinks that he can kick this guy, and if this guy punches him in the face, it doesn't matter. He doesn't care anymore because he feels like it doesn't matter. He's going to die anyway soon, and he's living his life more day by day. So he decides he kind of faces him out as well. So he stands up to him and says, "Come on, what are you going to do?" Yeah? And doing that, it can work because He's confident because he doesn't care about the consequences. Huh?
Yes.
Okay, so we see Walt and Jesse Pinkman in the RV, and they're making methamphetamine. So what happens when they make methamphetamine?
First of all, Jesse laughs at Walter, because he takes his clothes off because he doesn't want to smell meth.
Yeah.
And for Jesse, it's quite funny. But then we can see that they're working together. Jesse is like more relaxed and monkeying around a little bit.
What did you say?
Monkeying around.
Monkeying around, yes.
While Walter is completely serious and very professional, let's call it like this. And they're making something that apparently is a great product. Like Jesse is surprised because they do like big chunks of meth.
Yeah, big crystals.
Big crystals, yes.
Yeah, so it makes sense as well, I suppose, that with the rigour of a brilliant chemist, if you're a very good chemist, you'd be able to make very good meth. The people who make meth are not very, I don't know, but they tend to be not very intelligent or have a good grasp of chemistry, or so they just kind of make it as best they can. But he understands all the techniques and he uses all the right equipment as well.
Yes.
So Jesse wants to use a certain flask for cooking up, and he says no, that's for mixing, and you got to use this for heating, and then you got to use this for this and this.
And it goes better.
Yeah, he has all the equipment because he knows what to do because he's been trained. But other people who make meth don't know how to do chemistry.
Yeah. Actually, in previous scene somewhere, we can see that Walt is stealing those bottles and items from a chemistry lab at high school.
Yeah. So the next part is selling it to Jesse's old business partner, the one who is caught, and his cousin.
So Emilio, his name is.
Emilio,
yes.
Yeah. So what happens there? So Jesse goes to try and sell it to these guys.
Yes.
And they don't think much of Jesse, and they decide to go and see who's made it because it's brilliant. Yeah. So the guys, those two guys, they come out to where the RV is in the middle of the desert, and they see Walter White. And what happens when they see Walter White?
First of all, they light a cigarette. It was the first thing.
I think that's maybe later. But
okay. Anyway, they want to kill him because one of them, they recognize Walt from the DEA car when they the police assaulted their house.
Raided.
Yes. And they think that he's a policeman, right? So they are afraid and they want to kill him and Jesse too. So they hit Jesse and they made bondage.
Careful with the word bondage. I would say tie him up.
They tie him up.
Bondage is usually something more sexual in English.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't know how do I know these words.
I won't ask. Okay, so that's so they tie him up, yeah?
Yes.
I don't think Jesse's enjoying it. I don't think he wants to be tied up. So.
No.
Okay, so and Walt agrees to save his life. He says that he'll teach these guys how to cook like he does, how to make crystal meth like he does.
Yes.
And that's the next thing they do.
Yeah, he tricks them, like
Because he knows that he's going to teach them, and then they're going to kill him anyway.
Yeah.
So he knows he has to do something. So while he's making the crystal meth, a cigarette gets thrown out because he doesn't want people smoking around him.
Yes.
And that starts a fire. But then how does Walt get rid of these two guys? How does he?
I think I was blinking.
You were asleep when you watched this bit. Okay, so he uses chemistry essentially. He knows that if you add a certain chemical with water and with heat, it will produce a gas
bomb.
It will produce a gas,
Yes.
poisonous gas. So he adds the the red phosphate into the jar, and then he runs outside and locks them in, and this incapacitates them, it kills them. Yeah?
And he also grabs some gas masks,
Yeah.
and it's important because later he will take Jesse Pinkman and go inside to RV with masks, so he's safe to drive them away.
Yeah, and then we go back to what we saw at the start, which is Walter White waiting for the police. You can hear a police siren, and he's waiting for the police to come
With the gun.
with the gun. And he thinks his number is up, he thinks he's going to be caught, so he tries to kill himself, but he doesn't know how to work the gun, because he's never touched a gun before, because he doesn't know anything about guns, because he's very...
So he fires it like this, and it won't work.
Yeah. And then he fires it into the ground. I think he takes the safety off, I would assume. And then he fires it into the ground, and then off it goes. And then what happens with the police? The police come along and take him and arrest him? Is that what happens?
Yes, and it's the end of the TV show.
It's the end of the TV series. Stupid
See you
TV
next
series.
episode.
The next episode could be him in prison, maybe.
His prison break, it's
Prison
called.
Break, yeah. Breaking Bad Prison Break.
Okay, so it's not police, it's a fire brigade, so they pass along. And he's like, what the fuck?
Yeah, they've come to get the fire.
Yes, the fire of the cigarette.
Yeah. And so he realises he's safe, and
He's relieved.
yeah. And the scene at the end, he finally shows that he's growing as a person. He's become more stronger. And he has good sex with his wife, doesn't he? Which
Actually, she's like, Walt, this is you. It's a very funny scene.
yeah, and it shows that he's becoming sort of stronger, and he's
More man.
more manly. Yes, and his life is actually improved by the cancer diagnosis. He's instead of spending his whole life worrying about what's going to happen in the future, he's become to realise that actually you just have to live your life, and with nothing to lose, you are given a freedom. So I think it's quite an interesting end to the episode.
Yeah.
Okay, that's it for today. That's the end. So
Subscribe to the channel.
you better do it. She's told you. She's very angry. Okay, and then we're going to put another video up a little later with the words and vocabulary as well next time. Okay, see you later. Bye bye.